What's good, YouTube? Man of Steel here, and to my surprise, although we are still 24 hours away from the recording of this video, from the release of Space Time Smackdown, we do have a full list reveal. Like, it's been spoiled, or I guess at this point released, the entire set list for the set, whether they're in Palkia or Dialga. And it's gonna be just a one take because I'm gonna be reacting to all these cards except for the ones that were like leaked previously. Like, we're talking about Lucario, we're talking about Palkia and Dialga that were in the trailer, as well as Pachirisu. Clearly, any card that was already revealed, I'm aware of it, but I am going one by one, and I don't want to say blindly rank them. I will blindly react to them, and then I'll put them where I feel they'll be. I did the same thing with Mythical Island, and it'll be a good, like, I guess, gauge of where my sense of like card power is, as well as I could look back and see if I was right on certain picks or not. Like, clearly I'm not one to go, like, I'm willing to recognize when I messed up, right? So with that said, let's go straight into card number one. I won't put everything into the tier list. I do have every card because I didn't want to see what they did. I just grabbed their picture and put it in the tier list. I only put up, like, let's say for example, this is where we have right here in front of us Oddish, Gloom, and Blossom. I'll probably just put the Blossom, but regardless, I'm gonna go one by one. We're gonna see what they do, and then if I feel they need a ranking, you'll see it. Pretty self-explanatory. Either way, I'm excited, and let's get right into it. Okay, so let's get started. And first off, we have the Oddish line, and with Oddish, we have here, as you can see, we have heal 10 damage for just one grass energy. So that technically puts it at the same level as the Oddish from Genetic Apex, as it's 60 HP the same, and it does attack for one. You have the trade-off of like either dealing 20 or healing 10. Realistically, this is just a build-up for the evolutions, so we'll see what the new Gloom does. If we click right here, let me double check everything's in order. All right, perfect. This Gloom is only 1 energy 30. That's already putting it above, in my opinion, of although the other one does have a 1-star rare one, like the artwork is nicer. I do believe this 30 is going to be valued more than doing 2 for green, although it is a perfect, depends on the curve, of course, right? Which then we jump into Blossom, which is 2 for 80. Okay. This has to be on paper a lot better due to like the energy, right? A Blossom I would put in playable. It's the first card we're gonna rank. And this is in terms of like, if you compare it to the Vileplume, yes, Vileplume puts you to sleep, but it is 3 energy, and also it requires 2 retreat costs if I'm not mistaken. I'm double checking here. It's a 3 retreat cost actually. And just for 10 HP, so I think this card is a lot more flexible and has a higher upside than its counterpart in Genetic Apex. Then we have Tangela, which also had a Genetic Apex counterpart. Sorry if this video is all over the place. Honestly, I'm blind reacting with y'all. So we have 2 energy Vine Whip, which, if I remember correctly, it's almost identical to Genetic Apex. I'm not the Genetic Apex version is actually absorbed for 2 energy, so same 2 energy. So I don't see why you would play this one over the one from Genetic Apex unless there's something I'm missing. I guess the retreat costs, that's one reason. Although there's clearly a reason, the reason Tangela is even on here is for Tangrowth, which Tangrowth for 4 energy does 90 damage, heals 30 from this Pokemon. So I'd have to put this closer to the fun rogue, if not almost unplayable. We might start adjusting as we go on. Realistically, 4 energy seems a little too expensive. 3 retreat cost seems pretty expensive, and I don't think you could be mixing this with Snivy. So I think I'll go as far as going to unplayable. I don't see this being fun. Could just be me, but on to the next one. Yanma. 1 energy 20. It is colors to note. Maybe that works with Yanmega. Yanmega. Okay, so we have a grass that uses 3 colorless to attack. That's huge. That's huge because you can start combining things. I think that's instantly. Well, let's read the card. Discard a random energy from this Pokemon. 3 energy 120. Might be a little expensive, but the versatility is what I think is just too good to pass up. I could be wrong about this, but I don't think it'll be broken. But the fact that you can play it anywhere, it mixes with Dialga. That's like although I don't know if that's like the proper mix. I'm just thinking of like cards that it'll work with. The fact that you get a grass attacker in any deck, like maybe a deck that's weak to fighting, you could throw this, like let's say you do bad against Golem, you could throw this in there. I don't know, just ideas, you know. Okay, this is all like reacting like So no Badoo, which is interesting because Badoo is in Gen 4, right? So I guess baby Pokemon are still not a thing in the game. With that said, we have Stink for 20, not much to say about that. Then Roserade for 2 energy. You have your opponent's active Pokemon is not poisoned. If y'all seen any of my videos, y'all know I'm a big fan of Weezing. So this technically does serve like the same and a similar situation, but it is weaker. I think maybe Fun Rogue, it gives Grass the poison ability. I'm not sure, especially now with Lumberry, which I don't know how playable it's gonna be. I'll put that in Fun Rogue, close to unplayable. The fact that it's a different typing that has poison is where I'll give it more respect. We saw this in the trailer, the Turtwig. Not much to say. It's all the grass starters for some reason have 2 energy attacks except for that promo Snivy. Then we have Grotto, which for 3, so it's following the same idea as Bulbasaur and Ivysaur, I gotta believe. And then funny enough, and I don't say funny, I noticed as I was like setting up the pictures and stuff that Torterra nor what's this giant penguin? I can't believe I just blanked on his name. We'll get to him. They didn't get an EX version like Infernape did, which is odd based on like the original. Look, let's read Torterra regardless. During your next turn, this Pokemon can't use Friends. Okay, so it could only attack once, and then you have to kind of get it out of there. With 4 retreat costs, like technically with Snivy, you could kind of like. I think this guy's gonna land in my what I want to call unplayable. Sure, I might try it because he's a starter. And it is hitting for 150, but it hits for 150 and it doesn't do anything for a turn. I don't know if we could afford that. Like, basically, it's just as slow as Infernape EX, but for twice the amount of energy and a retreat cost that's absurd. So let's go to the next one. Again, this is going to be a decently long video, but I'm trying to go through, like, these pretty fast. You got 1 energy, 20 damage. That's pretty standard. We'll jump into Kricketune, which for 2, Entrancing Melody, your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. I'm gonna see how it works in the TCG, and I'm assuming it's gonna work the same. Ability to attack. When a Pokemon's confused, its owner must flip a coin before attacking. If the coin lands tails, it will hurt itself instead of attacking the opponent. How much does it damage? 3 damage counter. So you do 30 damage to yourself if you miss the coin flip. So more coin flips in the game. Can't say I'm the biggest fan of that, but it is a thing that is now in the game. I guess that will fall under Fun and Rogue. I don't know how much about playable. It is only hitting for 50 and it's only 90. But on to the next one. Also, comment down below anything that you either agree or disagree with me. I'd love to see the answers there. Burmy, which as I saw as I was putting down the pictures, there's quite a few of these evolutions in the for Wormadam, which we have. Wait, which Wormy was just a colorless, so that's gonna make it pretty versatile. Then 1 green, 2 colorless leaf cutter. Flip a coin. If heads, this attack does 30 more. I feel bad saying this is unplayable because it's clearly. I guess my point, like what I mean by unplayable, is just bad. Let's change unplayable to bad. Cause yeah, 3 energy for a potential 90 just doesn't fit right, and. Like, technically, you could play all these cards, right? You just put them in the deck, and you got them. Then we have Call for Family. Put a random basic mon from your deck onto your bench. Okay, this is going to jump to... I don't think it's broken. Broken is not the word, but if people were playing Caterpie, this card is above that. Like, I have to put it broken. Maybe I'll drop it to good, because it is just 50, and it could get knocked out by many things, but depending on what Vespa Queen does, Combi is insane. Let's see. Like, think about... Wait, look, real back. Like, Nidoran female was just grabbing the male. I'm gonna put it at the top of good. Although it just sounds so... Like, the amount of things you could do with this and the consistency that some decks will see. I guess the fact that it's 50 is what puts it a little over for me. Let's see what Vespa Queen does. 2 energy, Pierce. 2 for 70 is pretty not that bad of a number. I'll put it in like Fun/Rogue strategy, especially if you're playing Combi. There's no need to. You could always just evolve right over it if you're playing a pure grass deck. Now we have Carnivine, which for 3 energy does flip a coin. If heads, this attack does 50 more. It's a 90 that could potentially do 90, but at 3 energy, this will just go for bad for me. Leafeon, that's one that we saw in the trailer. During next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. I still think 2 for 90 with just a 1 retreat cost is pretty strong. I'm gonna go with playable on that one. Alright, we got Mo Rotom, which energy cutoff, flip a coin, if heads. Let's see here. Yeah. Okay, so my bad. Energy cutoff, 30 damage, flip a coin, if heads, discard a random energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. This falls under Fun Rogue, I believe. Mainly because it's like you're playing like a deck that's just trying to like disrupt your opponent and then you're hoping for some tails or whatever. It's alright. Shaman, 60 HP. Wasn't expecting it to be so low, but here we are. Once during your turn, ability Fragrant Flower Garden. Once during your turn, you may heal 10 damage from each of your Pokemon. This is Butterfree and a basic Pokemon. So you went from a stage 2 to a stage to a basic, and it's healing just 10, but it is again a lot easier to put down. And if you have 2, you start healing 20 a turn, just like Butterfree was doing. I think this will be, I don't know if, and also it's generic. Like clearly you won't be swinging with a Shaman, but healing 10, I'm actually gonna go as far as saying this is good. This is more than playable. It replaces Potion in a body. That's the part that, the fact that it's so weak is what makes me kind of lean towards playable more than good. It's gonna make for some fun decks. I'm gonna put it at playable. Because I feel like we're going to have a lot of good towards like the backside of this. Now that we're going into our first fire Pokemon, and we have Magmar, which the attack Stoke takes a fire energy from your energy zone and attaches it to this Pokemon. This is going to be completely dependent on what Magmar does, so I'll leave it unranked for now. Because I don't know how much ramping we'll be doing. We have Magmortar for 4 energy, Bursting Inferno, 100 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now burned. The burn in Pokemon is you place a burn counter between turns, add 2 damage, so it's actually stronger than poison. But flip a coin, if it's lands on heads, you could actually lose the burn. So it's almost like mixing poison with sleep, except it does 20 rather than 10. So it's basically hitting for 120 like consistently, right? At least that's the math in my head. I believe that's correct. So 120 on a 130. I think it'll be... It's hard to say this is playable, because it is for 4 energy. Technically, you would go Magmar. We would go Magmar, put an energy on it, Stoke. Then put an energy again. You wouldn't really Stoke, you maybe... I think together, they'll go into Fun Rogue. You also have the option of just going like... Moltres is probably a better way of doing this, but I can see it like being fun. We have Slugma, just a standard 20 damage on a basic, and then this one burns for 2 energy, 120. The attack is kind of low, so actually I kind of want to lean towards Magmar being pretty bad. I'm gonna put these together, so I'm not gonna fill up this list with too many of those cards. I'll put him as bad, and I'll put Slugma as Macargo as playable. Then we saw these in the trailer, Chimchar, which evolves into Monferno. That's 30 for just 1 energy. And then we saw Infernape, which I think is gonna be close to broken. There's a world where I know stage 2 is what makes me want to lean to good. I think I'm gonna place it in broken now, and then based on what we see where the power level starts ending. Because so far we're pretty low on my personal opinion of where these cards are landing. So now we have Heat Rotom with Heat Breath, which for 2 fires does flip a coin. If heads, this attack does 30 more. This feels a lot worse than the Lawnmower one that kind of like tries to snipe an energy. I think for this one, we definitely have to go with just a bad card. At most, it's doing 60. You're just 80. Where's the card here? Let's go bad. Now, Swinub, I'm assuming... Okay, so 2 energy 40. Kind of... Okay, we got Thick Fat on Piloswine, which is... This Pokemon takes minus 20 from attacks from fire or water monsters. Look at me and my Yu-Gi-Oh brain. Pokemon. 3 for 60 is a little expensive, though. Let's see what Piloswine does before we decide what's going on. So, hold up. We have Thick Fat that does minus 20, and then we have Thick Fat that does minus 30. And for 4 energy, 4 retreat. How much is the retreat on this one? 120. Technically, if you're going against fire, you already have an advantage though. And its weakness is steel type. I think it's a little too expensive with not enough of a ceiling. Like, I could be proven wrong. Maybe like with Manaphy and stuff that we've seen in leaks, it might be worth. But now something I was excited for was seeing some Gen 3. So we have Regice, which or Regice, how I used to call it, or what I usually call it. Crystal Body, prevent all effects of attacks used by your opponent's Pokemon done to this Pokemon. So although it's pretty low ceiling, it can't get poisoned. Well, it could get poisoned from abilities, but not from attacks. So basically all these new cards that are confusing and burning and whatever, Regis does not get affected by it. I think, I don't know if that'll be, I think that has to be under fun. Where are we? Let's just put that under fun. Alright, next one we got Piplup, which we saw, which for just heals 20 from this Pokemon. Not sure how good that would be. And Polion. Okay. It just came to my mind. I was like, I remember earlier in this video I looked like I just don't know my Pokemon. Okay, we got 2 energy, 30 damage here. Okay, so once again, water does have a perfect curve, the same way like Blastoise had with from Squirtle to War Turtle and so on. But we have 3 Aqua Jet. This attack also does 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So it's like a pseudo Articuno almost. It does a little bit more to the bench, but it's only targeted. I can see this as a fun, like we've seen cards like Palkia. Like, I don't think this lands in like, and with Articuno's existence being able to, it's just a basic Pokemon on a stage 2. This will be fun / rogue, very near to bad in my opinion. Now we have Weasel, again basic, no standard, 20 damage on a basic Pokemon, and now we have Jet Screw, which flip a coin if heads this attack does 30 more. I guess the upside is the fact that it's like the equivalent almost to like a Ponyta / Rapidash line. Same thing with the HP and the... So just like that, I have to put it in playable. I'm a really big fan of cards like that. I know that Liepard didn't really do anything in Mythical Island format, but it's because Dark types don't really benefit from that type of aggression. But let's go on to the next one, which is Shellos. We have 2 energy Mud Slap. That's a little heavy, but sometimes it makes sense. And we have 3 energy Muddy Water. This attack does 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So it's you would have to put it in the same list as Empoleon, I feel, because although it does a little bit less, it's a stage 1. It almost like makes me want to put both in just bad. And how's it gonna be weak to electric when it's like half ground type? You want to talk about that? No. It's got me like reevaluating the Empoleon. I just gotta put both of them in bad. That's what's gonna happen. Because Articuno just feels stronger than both in every aspect. Let's go to a new Finneon. We got 1 energy Elegant Swim. Flip a coin if heads during your opponent's next turn. Prevent all damage from and effects of attacks done to this Pokemon. Prevent all damage from and effects of attacks done to this Pokemon. So it's similar to Vulpix, except I guess it's closer to like a Dugtrio. This is playable. Like, I guess you would play it over the old one. And then let's see what Luminion is. 1 energy 50. The fact that it's 1 energy, but this one actually has a retreat cost. So honestly, I don't think this is a bad card. I think, because again, it falls under, it's actually like a better Weasel, no? It's a more consistent Weasel, which we put in playable. So yeah, I'll put it playable. I do like the Mythical Island one a lot better. But actually, its existence kind of puts Weasel in like bad almost. Like, why would you play Weasel over this? Yeah, you might have the upside of hitting 60. Let me back up and see if I missed something with Weasel. In terms of like, no, the retreat cost is the same. And Floatzel's just doing 20. Yeah, no, I think we keep Luminion on playable. And he just jumps straight from playable to bad because there's no rogue or fun idea in playing Weasel unless you start like mashing all these like 1 energy attackers together. But water has like I don't know. We'll see. All right, now we have Snover, which they went with the water typing. He is half grass, so it could have gone either way. And water in this game, Ice falls under that category. If your opponent's active Pokemon is a fighting type, this attack does 30 more. So 1 energy 40 on, well, I was about to say on your weakness, but he's not actually Ice in this game. Like, they have it as he's weak to Steel. This is a little too, I guess, niche almost. Like, what water deck would want to counter fighting this much? The 70 HP, 1 energy could potentially do 40 is kind of huge. Especially with how strong fighting could be in this meta, especially with like Lucario that we've seen before. I want to say this is, I think it's close to being fun rogue. Like, it's not like we have side decks in Pokemon, so. I guess what he evolves into, this just has to be bad, I feel. It's too expensive. And that retreat cost is abysmal. Okay, let's go to Glaceon. This is not one that we've seen. Ice Beam for 60, flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is not paralyzed. This is going to be playable. It's basically the Articuno. Granted, Articuno is a basic, but it required 3 energy. This one only needs 2. I think it'll be playable. It probably lands closer to Fun Rogue, but like I could see people playing this. Do you play Vaporeon? I think it'll be Fun Rogue. Okay, yeah. Let's be honest with ourselves. Now we have Wash Rotom, which is just a basic 130 damage. I think this puts it like a Heatmore status, I guess. Right? Does Heatmore do 30? Am I blanking? Am I making that up in my head? No, it's literally a Heatmore. I'm like looking at it in a separate window. Yeah, no, personally I never played Heatmore, so by my own definition it just has to be bad. Then we go to Frost Rotom, which 2 energy blizzard 30. This attack also does 10 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. I see what they're going for, but it's 2 energy, 1 more energy. Articuno is doing so much more than this. Granted, it is the basic, but it's also just 80. I think it has to be, in my opinion, bad. I can't wait till like half of these just like prove me wrong, like 1 week into the set, or like the first weekend. Alright, so now we're at Palkia EX, which granted, I'm gonna put it in good unless there's like a trainer card that I have not read that just gives an abundance of energy. Because I have seen Manaphy. I know there's ways of ramping, but I don't think it justifies, like, again, not a bad card. I just have to put it in good. And if we were doing like, oh, higher good or whatever, it's definitely like the best one that we've seen so far in terms of good. But nothing, I do think the 4 cost and discarding 3 is kind of expensive. But we'll see again. If there's a different card, we will adjust the ranking accordingly. Now we go to Manaphy. I think it's going to be... Manaphy's a good card. Sort of like Combi, the fact that it's only 50 might make it a little too weak. And it's what holds it from being broken, in my opinion. Again, this is all my opinion. But I'm also blind reacting to all these cards. Not except Manaphy was spoiled, so... Let's go to Magnemite, Standard. Okay, Magneton. I saw some leaks showing like the old Magneton. I think this one is playable because you don't need the other Magneton. You don't need to go all the way to 4 energy or charge extra energy when you have a perfect curve from 1 to 3, right? So this will just be playable because it's definitely preferred over the other one. In a deck where you're going into Magnezone, which we saw earlier, which discard a lightning energy from this Pokemon. The fact that it requires just 1 is interesting. Like, you might get creative or try to something, although the build-up requires more than 1 lightning energy. But you also have, that's where, if you're gonna play this in like some kind of dual color thing, that's when you would consider playing the genetic Apex one. If that makes sense, because you get to charge external energy without having to actually commit to him until he's like ready type of thing. I think this guy's playable for sure. 140. The stage 2 is kind of rough. But we do have like Surge and stuff like that could ramp up the Magneton before you go into Magnezone. So I'm gonna put them together and playable. He might be closer to being fun rogue, but we'll see what time, of course. Big explosion from Voltorb. This attack also does 10 damage to itself. 30 damage flat from a basic, especially like one thing that held back Joltik was that it only had, I think, 40 HP if I'm remembering correctly. So technically this would be like a 50 HP, similar to, I wonder if this Electro is going to be, this Electro coming up is similar to the Primate. Regardless, I do think this is going to be like playable. Let's see, rolling attack, just 1 for 50. Its retreat cost is not free, so this already feels like bad to me. The Voltorb is nothing out of this world, but I could see a world where this Voltorb gets played more than the other one, and it's still, you still play the Pikachu deck, right? We have a new Electabuzz, which is similar, actually no, it's identical to the Magmar, so we'll just mix it in with whatever Electivire does, which is 2 energy, 40 plus, like this card has at least 2 extra. This attack does 80 more damage. Okay, so that's huge. The only thing is, I don't think you would play the Electabuzz that ramps for an attack, because you could just manually put it the following turn. You do. Oh wait, hold up. I completely jumped out over the fact that at least 2 extra energy attached to it. So technically, you would go Electabuzz, give him an energy, ramp him to 3, evolve. If you're playing Electivire, you would play the second Electabuzz, unless you could just manually go to 2 with the one that snipes things in the back. I think you would still play that one, and then if anything, Surge into the Electivire. I'm not too sold on the Electabuzz as a card, but I do believe this Electivire is playable. Being able to do 120 for 2 or for 4 energy, when in a way where you could ramp and stuff. Maybe I'm like, seems like I'm contradicting myself, because Magmortar is also doing 120 for the same 4 energy, but you have ways with like Lieutenant Surge and stuff to ramp this Electivire. So I think I'll go not so much playable, but maybe fun rogue. Leaning towards playable, actually, more than Magmortar's leaning towards fun. Like, all right, let's go. Let's keep on going. We got Shinx with Hide. Flip a coin. If heads during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage from and effects of. We saw something similar. I think it was the Finian. So again, but what only makes this playable is if there's like a better thing to go into. So we have Perfect Curse so far. 1, 2, and then what does Luxury do? Is Bolt. Discard all electric energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 120 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. That could be insane, especially since I've seen the leaks of Volknor that add 2 energy. So this is actually like consistently hitting 120 around. And if it's the active Pokemon, you can play cards like Geo to hit for 130, which hits a lot of cards. If it's like Starmie, you have the ability, like the weakness policy. I think this card is, because of the existence of Volknor, I don't know why I said Volknor. Volknor is leaning, I want to put it in good. It might just be playable, honestly. It might not be that good. Like, it might not be in the same realm as these cards. But hitting 120 anywhere seems kind of strong. Let's go. I'll adjust it later if I feel like if maybe I'm wrong with something. Alright, so now we have Pachirisu, which if this Pokemon has a Pokemon tool attached to it, it does 40 more. We saw the, I guess, well, depending on the Pokemon tools, it's 120, at max it's hitting 80 unless there's a tool that adds the damage. So it's similar to, I'm gonna put it in playable, and then depending on what tools we have, I got lost here. We might put it up to good. It depends on the tools. Because realistically, it's like an extra piece to the combo, and it hits less than, like, you just rather play Pikachu, right? At least that's my opinion. Now we have regular Rotom, colorless energy, which is good to know. Note, I mean, if your opponent, the active Pokemon, has a tool attached to it, it does 30 more. This depends on the format, if people are actually going to be using tools a lot. And at most it does 50, but 50 for 1 energy. Like, let's say they Rocky Helmet or something. This could be fun road towards playable. It depends on the shape of the format. Or again, this is one of those, if the right tools, it will jump up to playable. Alright, let's go to Togepi, just a standard 20 damage from a basic. Okay, so this leans, the Togetic, I'm gonna put, regardless of what Togekiss does, I have to put it in playable because it lands in the same spot as cards that I've hyped up before. Now we have 2 Psychic Energy, Overdrive Smash, 60 during your next turn. This Pokemon's Overdrive Smash does a 60 extra, and we know we've seen Cynthia. So I think this has to go on good, especially like it's the trainers that are the support cards that are making these luxury and Togekiss be ranked so highly, in my opinion. Now we have Mischievous against standard 20 damage, and we have the first EX in a while, which is Mismagius. Your opponent's active Pokemon is not confused for 2 energy 70. That falls under like the same category as Marowak and Aerodactyl and stuff like that. It's a stage 1, does a decent amount of damage, and it adds confusion to the mix. So I think this is definitely a good card. Not broken by any means, good. And it'd be, if we're doing an order, it'd be closer to the Palkia. Now we have a raw colorless energy. That's so it works with Gallade that we've seen post about. It's definitely probably a preferred play. Like you probably play it over the one that just does 10 damage. Colorless 20. Again, you would probably play this over the other one because the other one was doing 2 required seconds. There's just 30. So these are playables. No need to fill the tier list up. Now we have Dustox. 1 energy Will-O-Wisp, unfortunately doesn't burn or nothing, but now we have Dusclops. 3 energy 50, that's a little expensive. Let's see what Dusknoir does. Shadow Void, as often as you'd like during your turn, you may choose one of your Pokemon that has damage on it and move all of its damage to this Pokemon. So realistically, this line is not even like thinking of attacking. This is gonna be, I want to say it's fun rogue, but it could also be playable. Just to the fact that it drains attacks into a 1 damage attacker. It depends on the form. I'm gonna go fun rogue. Because it is a stage 2. If you miss the pieces, it doesn't do anything. The other, as you build up to it, it's not really doing anything for you. Expand during your opponent's next turn. This Pokemon takes 20 less damage. And then Balloon Strike is 2 for 60. I could see people playing this in like Florist style decks where they're just building up attackers, but this can't. It's not gonna win games. I guess it would be fun. Rogue is closer, but I'll just put in a bad. Again, bad almost feels too harsh. It's just I don't know. Let's go to the. I think these are mythical Pokemon. The Yuxi, Mesprit, and Azelf. Shout out to Angry Azelf. You know who you are. Okay, so 1 energy, a Mind Boost, 20 damage, take a psychic energy from your energy zone, attach it to a Mesprit or Azelf. Okay, so based on what they start doing, this could be like really good. I'll put it. Let's read all of them and then decide where they go. 3 energy, Supreme Blast, 160 on a basic. You can use this attack only if you have Yuxi and Azelf on your bench. Discard all energy from this Pokemon. That got a little worse. And then we have Azelf Psychic Arrow. This attack does 20 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Babel Snipe, cool. Only 20 damage. Clearly makes it worse to him only, but it was really strong with him only. So I think we're gonna go. Azelf is gonna be playable, and they'll put the other 2 in Fun Rogue together. And now we go to Giratina, which has the same artwork as the other 3. Has Levitate. If this Pokemon has any energy attached to it, it has no retreat cost. That's crazy. Granted, it doesn't. If this Pokemon has any energy, that's an ability that if you start giving it around too much, is gonna go pretty insane. Unfortunately, he only hits for 70 with 3 energy. The free retreat cost makes it where like he'd be a much better version of like Mewtwo, if that makes sense. Mewtwo, the baby version. So I'll put it in. It's technically playable as a wall that you could jump off, like instead of Jotagon, and then you could jump, get it out of the way whenever for 1 energy. So I'll put it in playable. It could almost be good depending on like the format, because again, it's just any energy, so it doesn't even need to be a psychic deck. But whatever. Let's jump to Cresselia. Moonlight Gain, heal 20 damage from this Pokemon for 2 energy, does 50. Hold on, let me make sure that. Okay, the tier list still looks good. I can't imagine this is too good. Oh, there's where I messed up. Hold up, let me see. Cresselia I have to put in probably just bad. I don't see this being played over like certain cards. Okay, now we're to the fighting types. This video's gotten pretty long. Hopefully I could cut it down with some editing. But hopefully y'all learning with me, because again, none of these cards I knew were coming out. Like, I mean, obviously we knew these cards were coming. I just didn't know we'd get them like at this point. I was expecting that I had to open packs to see all this. So Rhyhorn 2 energy, 40 damage, which in comparison to the other Rhyhorn that we got in Genetic Apex, we have 3 energy for 60. So this same 80 HP. So that already makes it a better card, in my opinion. But let's leave it up to the entire line. Okay, so we have a better, I guess, what's the word, curve here? It's still slow, but it is 1 energy faster, and it's okay. So these are definitely, as far as like playable, in the sense of like these cards are clearly better than the Genetic Apex counterparts, is what I'm trying to get at. So let's see what they evolve into though. We have Rhyperior, so the perfect curve, it's not a perfect curve, but once you get it going, it's 2, 3, 4, and you have discard the top 3 cards of your deck for 150. If there was a way to ramp this, granted I haven't seen every card like trainers or whatever. This is like similar to Golem, but hitting for 150 is huge. So currently I have to put it, I feel, at playable, and if there's a way to ramp it, this card actually jumps to good in my opinion. And that goes for the entire line. It's all playable. Okay, we got Gligar, one of my favorite Gen 2 Pokemon. And he's in this set thanks to Gliscor, which, so wait, this was a basic 20 damage here. And then we have Acrobatics, 20 damage, flip 2 coins. This attack does 20 damage for each head. Okay, so at max it hits for 40, but it's a coin flip. This is just gonna be under bad. Which is sad. It's sad to me because I love Gliscor and like the entire line. Now we have him on top, 2 energy, 50. There's so much better like fighting types, right? We have Marshadow that does 40 for the same 2 energy and it potentially hits for 100. So unfortunately, it has to go against bad. Against bad is not the correct word for that category. I just don't have another one off the top of my head. All right, so now we have Regirock. Nosepass I'm gonna leave because I did see that we have the evolution somewhere. Like when I was putting the pictures together. Exoskeleton, this Pokemon takes 20 less damage from attack, so it's similar to, if not identical to, Melmetal. And he also requires 4 energy to attack. The only thing is that he does not have a mask. He does not have the newly Dialga. But he is a basic, so you can start building him up from turn 1 technically. So I wanna put him either Fun Rope, even playable. I'll put him in playable because if Melmetal's playable, then this is playable. And you weren't always ramping. I'll put him in Fun Rope. I want him to be better than he is. Alright, then we have Cranidos, which again actually 1 energy 50. Oh no, wait, technically he's a stage 1. Okay. We gotta take into account that there is a fossil. So we have the fossil, then he's hitting for 150, which is pretty decent. It puts him in that alone, regardless of what Rampardos does, puts him in playable because it puts him in what I call as like basically the Rapid Edge line. And I know I put him on top and bad, but he does require 2 energy. Like it makes a difference technically. Let's see what Rampardo does. Rampardo's with just 1 energy, 130. What in the world is the drawback? If your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by damage from this attack, this Pokemon also does 50 damage to itself. I honestly think that's insane. I know it's a stage 2, but 130? In my opinion, that has to be good. I could be wrong. I could be overhyping this, but 1 energy. So you're not really committing anything to this. He's just 1 point himself. Does 130? That's crazy. Okay, now we have Wormadam, the fighting version, which 3 energy 70. I think this is also just bad. Where are we down here? Bad. Then we have Riolu, which is just a standard 20 damage, and then Lucario. I could be overhyping this. Maybe others are too. I think it's broken. The fact that you could probably, unless told otherwise, just by reading it, it will stack if you have 2 of them. It's just a stage 1, and it's like, once it starts hitting for 60, then if you have 2, it starts hitting for 80. And realistically, he's, like it says in the name, fighting coach. He's going to be in the back while the rest of your team's doing the damage. It's insane, in my opinion. It's crazy. Then we have a basic 83 damage. This already feels like bad. But then we have a Paladon. Again, if there was a way to ramp, maybe it's not that bad because you do have like the 120, but it doesn't tank the way Golem does. So this just has to be, in my opinion, a bad card. Now we have another EX in the form of Galade EX. 2 energy, 70 damage. This attack does 20 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. 70, then this does... So basically, it's essentially another attack is damage. So this is the EX, and except this has a lot more health, 20 damage, and it does, but it doesn't do as much damage. For each energy attached to your opponent's Pokemon, this has to be good. Maybe it's not broken, maybe it's not crazy, but it's, in my opinion, is good. So for dark types, we'll start off with Murkrow, which is against a standard, 20 damage from a basic. Then we have Honchkrow, which for 2 energy, this attack does 50 to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Again, if Lumineon is playable, this guy's playable, and the fact that he's in a dark type deck, actually, more than playable, Finneon is pretty good, actually, in my opinion. So I kind of want to put him higher than, he does have a 2 retreat cross. We'll put him at playable. Lumineon is actually more versatile than that. Then we have Sneasel, double scratch, 1 energy, flip 2 coins. This attack is 20 for each heads. That's actually pretty good because by himself, anything that could turn 1 do 40 damage could go a long way. But and then we saw Sneasel, right? We saw Weavile, I mean. Weavile, if your opponent's active Pokemon has damage on it, this attack does 40 more. So technically it's doing 70 for just 1 energy. That's if you're having like maybe Honchkrow hitting stuff in the back. If you mix it up with Weezing doing poison. I think this is it's a good card. I don't think it's broken by any means. And it could even lean towards being just playable. It could be worse, but the fact that it is a stage 1. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go as far as just saying that it's playable. And under Pachirisu. It could be better. Again, I could be proven wrong. Like maybe there's a consistent way of making it work, but again, okay, now Poochyena, basic. That's standard, I mean. And we have Mariana 2 energy 60. I honestly don't find like that this would get a spot when you have cards like Scolopy that do so much more. Let's go to the next one. Donkey, just 10 damage. Hopefully Skuntank does more. Just for 2, poison gas 50, and it now poisons. I'm a big fan of that. And it has like a decent, like in the turn, like a perfect curve. I'll go with Fun Rogue. It's not gonna be game breaking. It technically will be playable, but we'll see. We'll go from here. We got Spiritomb. This attack does 10 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon for just 1 colorless. So this goes into any deck. You could throw into something that like struggles with Psychic, and you just put them. It's an interesting card. I'll put it in Fun Rogue. I'm interested in seeing what people do with this. I'll even try to do something with it. Let's jump to Scorupy. I'm not a fan of basic Pokemon having 2 energies, especially just hitting 30, but let's see what... It all depends on what Drapion does. Drapion does 3 energy, flip 4 coins. This attack does 40 damage for each heads. If at least 2 of them are heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is not poisoned. That just goes directly into just the Fun / Rogue section. But carrying on, we have Croagunk for 2 energy. Again, y'all know how I feel about this. Flip a coin for each Pokemon. Flip a coin for each Pokemon you haven't played. This attack does 20 damage for each heads. So at most, you're flipping 4 coins. This is playable. This leans towards a lot better. Because it's not just randomly throwing 2 coins. The fact that if you have 4 Pokemon, the chances that you're hitting for like 40 minimum, that's actually... The more I talk myself into it, the more I talk myself out, I guess. I guess it depends on Toxic. Okay, Toxic Pro only need 2 is huge. Flip a coin for each Pokemon you have in play. This attack does 40 damage, so it's just an upgraded version. Okay, so this is what Croagunk wishes to do. This has to be, I believe, Fun / like Rogue. Which I guess starts like meshing with playable, like what's playable and what's Fun / Rogue. I guess it's like, when I say playable, it's like you could either build a deck around it or support any deck with it. While this is more like you're trying to like, oh, look at this deck and what it could, I don't know. Like it's not a consistent like build that you'll see like solving tournaments is, I guess, my definition. And I wish I had the definition at the start of the video, but here we are. Okay, now we have Darkrai. Your opponent's active Pokemon is on sleep for 3 energy 60. It is a basic, so that makes it like more consistent than Vileplume, but it also hits less and it's weaker. So this version, I feel like it's just not good. But to my surprise, as I was putting this list together, we have Darkrai EX. I was scared when I saw the Weavile post that I'm like, wait, this is the Dark EX that we finally get? But Darkrai, and I have not read it, and I've not looked down yet. I'm hoping this is insane. So Nightmare Aura. Whenever you attach a dark energy from your energy zone, wait, that is dark, right? Okay, okay, yeah, dark energy from your energy zone to this Pokemon. Do 20 damage to your opponent's active. Whenever you attach a dark energy from your energy zone to this Pokemon. So it doesn't matter whether your Pokemon's in the active. He could be chilling in the bench. You start building him up. You're starting to tag their active Pokemon. And then 3 energy, 80. Not ideal, but when you're talking about cards like Weezing, like you have Weezing up in the front, just tanking hits, and you're building up Darkrai and you're poking with the poison. No, this is on his own. He's good. Maybe I'm just hyping up and I'm just a big fan of darks. This is broken. He's technically, essentially hitting for 100. Building up, he starts hitting for even more. This is insane. I'm really hyped about playing with this card. All right, now we got steel types. We have Skarmory, Metal Arms 20 plus. If this Pokemon has a Pokemon tool, it does 30 more. So this is more consistent than the Rotom that we saw because this is if Skarmory has a tool. Which with that in consideration, I will put on playable, and then again near Pachirisu, where like if there's a really good tool that would go with it, it could jump over to like a higher thing. All right, now we have Registeel, 110, 3 energy, 90. Where'd I put the other ones? I guess I'll put them in Phone Rogue. At this point, we're just fans of the Regis. You got me. Not much to say about that one. Okay, so Shieldon again. We already saw what Rampardos is capable of. This 2 energy 50 is alright. Let's see what Bastion does. 3 energy 80. Again, we have to keep in mind that Dialga could ramp this, I guess. And has Guarded Grill. If any damage is done to this Pokemon by attacks, flip a coin. If heads, this Pokemon takes 100 less. That's almost insane. That's almost insanity. The fact that I think it's hard to say that this is like. I think I'm gonna go with playable. It's hard to say that it's broken. I think it does land closer to fun / rogue. You're not gonna stick into like most. I still think Momentum would be like the better companion with Dialga, and that's not counting the bunch of like Mega and stuff like that you could mix up with Dialga due to like how many cards they've made that aren't type specific. Then we have 2 Iron Head 50 plus, flip a coin until you get tails. This attack does 30 damage for each heads. So it does 50 for sure, and then it potentially does 80 to 110. If any of the evolutions are playable, it'll be this one. It does do a flat 50 for 2 energy. The 2 energy is kind of not ideal. I guess it'll be a fun rogue. Close to playable though. I'm not gonna lie. I almost want to put it in playable, but I'm not a fan of coin flips and like randomness. Then Bronzor is 2 energy with just tackle. Again, these lightning types, I mean, steel types not having that much. You know what? I'm gonna put it in playable because I'll use this. Again, these are not too expensive because you could ramp it up with the guard press 60 damage during your opponent's next turn. This takes 20 less. At that point, you would just build up Melmetal. A lot of these cards suffer from the fact that there's cards that already do what they're doing, but better. So let's keep on going here. We have Probopass. So this is where I didn't want to preemptively say like, oh, Nose Pass isn't good enough or whatever. We have Triple Nose for 4 energy again. It's not the worst thing because we do have Dialga. Dialga exists. 30 plus. Flip 3 coins. This attack does 50 more for each heads. This is not an example of a card that you would want to use. Yeah, we'll put him in bad. I'm not a fan of that. Okay, what's next? We have Dialga. Although I have not seen a card that makes me think like, oh, this is the way. We have to put Dialga in good. I haven't seen the steel type that completely converted me to thinking like, oh, this is the way to play it, but it's just too good of a card on theory. And then here we have Heatran, 120, Steel Tackle, 110. This Pokemon also does 20 damage to itself. Hard to gauge something like that. I don't know. We'll go. I don't know. It doesn't even feel like a fun rogue option. Now we have the dragon types. We have Gibble as a colorless, Gabite as water and fighting. So maybe like those toolbox decks that are playing Greninja and fighting cards could lean towards this. And just for 2 energy, 100 is pretty decent. Again, it could hit 150 with the Cynthia card. That's also to keep in mind. And you must discard a card from your hand in order to see the ability. And then I think this clearly, I won't make the same mistake of making a Dragon type, putting it on unplayable or bad. This is a good card. Even if you don't attack with it and just filter, I feel like that ability is really strong. I know it's in stage 2, but I have high hopes for Garchomp. Okay, so for normal types, I was actually surprised with how many there are in this game. We have Lickitung that does 50 for 3. Horrendous. This is just a bad card. We'll scroll back up in a little bit. Let's just go with Licky. 4 energy, which the Alga could ramp. So it's like, let's say, when you see colors and a lot of energy, you gotta think the Alga could make this work, I guess. So flip a coin until you get tails. This attack does 40 more damage. So what makes it better than the Lickitung from Gen Egg Apex is the fact that it does do a set 100 with an upside of almost it's a Misty's chance of hitting 140, which is a great number. With Geo, it's 150. I think this is definitely playable. It'd be good if it was less energy, and it would be terrible if the Alga didn't exist. If the Alga didn't exist, I wouldn't put this under playable, but it is under these because it's not gonna go above Scarm. Like, yeah, okay. On to the next one. Eevee quick attack, flip a coin, Fez this attack. EVs are just gonna be EVs. I think you usually go with the one that just clears like the board at all times, but whatever. Porygon basic does 20. Then we have for 1 energy 30, not ideal. Then 3 energy Buggy Beam 80. Change the type of the next energy that will be generated. This has to be, although it reads as fun playable, its weakness is fighting. It is 140 though on a stage 2. I'll put it in playable. It leans towards, again, it's almost like a fun rogue, but it is definitely playable. And then the fact that it will get your opponent stuck in certain matchups, it will win you the game. It's that simple. I think that automatically puts it under playable, but let's go on to the next one. Apom, standard 20 damage on a basic. We have double hit, flip 2 coins, attack does 40 damage for each heads. Not a fan of cards like this. It is playable, but I'll put it in fun rogue. Alright, we have Starly. Before doing damage, discard all tools from your opponent's active Pokemon. That's already playable. Where are we? That even has to be good. That's like one of those that's good regardless. And then based on, yeah, that's just good on paper. Like that's good regardless. Regardless of whatever the rest of the thing does. 2 energy 40. And so it's a perfect curve. It's a clutch during your opponent's next turn. The defending Pokemon can't retreat. So it's basically Arbok. That's hitting for 80, has 140 HP. I think this is less good and more on the playable side. Wherever we are, I'm lost here again. Sorry guys, I'm doing this like off the top. I'm literally blind reacting to all these cards. That's why I'm taking a little bit too much time because I'm like honestly seeing some of these for the first time. So now Bidoof, 2 energy, Super Fang, have your opponent's active Pokemon remaining HP rounded down. That has to be playable, I feel. Like there's certain matchups where it's gonna be insane. Like you're literally on 2 energy. Mewtwo could knock you out, that's the only issue. But like let's say you're playing against Mewtwo and you're able to knock him down all the way to 70. Actually it starts to become it seems like it's gonna be more of a fun rogue strategy. It will surprise people for sure. Then we have Bibero, 260. Actually don't know how to pronounce this, but it's not as good as like what the only thing you would do is like evolve and then so you have it and then hit for 60, but it doesn't do much after that. Baneri, just a standard hitting for 10. Then we have Lopunny with jump kick, 1 energy, 20 damage. This attack also does 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. That seems like it's gonna be decent. It splits 40 damage for just 1 energy. This has to be playable in my opinion. Now we have Glameow, which pose, flip a coin. If tails, this attack does nothing, but it potentially does 40. That's technically playable, but it also depends on what Ugly does. With Interrupt 60, your opponent reveals their hand. Choose a card from you find there and shuffle it into the opponent's deck. This is not coin flip, this just guarantees it. Although it probably leans towards fun rogue, I'm gonna put it in playable. Let's scroll up a little bit again. Or just leave it there. We're getting like too many cards on, but now we have Shatot, which Fury attack 20, flip 3 coins, attack does 20 for each. I guess technically it's playable, but you would initially, I don't know, like, not a big fan of this one. And then I think we're down to the last 2 Pokemon in the set, which is Fan Rotom, Spin Storm, flip a coin. If heads, put your opponent's active Pokemon into their hand. Wow, that seems definitely like the definition of fun and rogue. And then now for the last Pokemon in the set. Sorry again for the length of this video. We're blind reacting and I'm just seeing everything for the first time. So we have 4. Again, this is something that you could boost with Dialga. Raging Hammer. This attack does more damage equal to... Wait. This attack does more damage equal to the damage this Pokemon has on it. Okay, so if it's taking 50, it'll hit for 100. And then, again, seems like a fun thing. I think all the Regis are not necessarily good, but they're not necessarily, I mean, they're not necessarily bad, but they're not necessarily playable. They're somewhere in the middle. That's where like they all ranked, if I'm remembering correctly. And that leads us to the trainer cards. All right, so for trainer cards, we just have like the fossils that don't do anything special. They're just 40 HP basics. Okay, so this is the first item that I have not seen. Choose a Pokemon in your hand and switch it with a random Pokemon in your deck. I feel like that's gonna be good. It changes a Pokemon you don't want to see, and has a chance of switching it for like anything. It's gonna make potentially seeing stage 2s and stage 1s, or sending stage 2s away and hoping to see. It's gonna be, I guess it kind of leans towards playable, but I want to think it's good. It's gonna be, say you want to see, I guess it's closer to playable if I'm being honest, but I'll keep it at playable. I mean, at good. The Pokemon attached with Giant Cape. This is the first tool that we're reviewing in this video. Although we've seen it before, I'm gonna put it in good. It makes where, like, I don't know, like if you're playing Pikachu, you start like, it's like if you think your deck has blue, you switch it for Giant Cape almost like 100% of the time. It's like it almost like devalues Geo, which is such an important card. And we have Rocky Helmet, which basically we've seen how much Jotagon is used, right? If the Pokemon attached to this card's active spot is damaged by an attack, do 20 to the attacking. So it makes any Pokemon you have Jotagon. I think that has to be considered broken. We might not see it as often. And then Lumberry, I think it's going to be playable. The only reason I don't have it like fully higher than that is and also that I think that clearly puts here Pachirisu and Skarmory up, mainly because of Cape and Rocky Helmet. If you tag either one, like if you put the Cape on Pachirisu, it's 140 now. It's not as weak, and it's hitting for 80, so it's literally a Marowak that hits all the time, or it's basically Aerodactyl EX, it's the same card. On a basic, you don't need to evolve or nothing, which is huge. Skarmory is just a 1 energy hitting for more already. And whether it's Rocky Helmet to make it more resilient, or the Cape to also, same, like, different forms of, like, survivability, right? Lumberry is the one I'm not fully turned on, although they do have multiple cards that now are poisoning, confusing, and burning, and all of that top. I don't even know what adjectives I just said, but it might come in handy. So I'm leaning towards playable, but it is technically a good card. It's just, if you're playing against a deck that's not doing that stuff, it's dead. So unlike Cape and Helmet, that regardless of what your opponent's doing, your Pokemon having more health is good, and your Pokemon bouncing damage back is also good. So now we have the trainers. Cyrus, okay. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with one that has damage on it. Based on how all of this is going, I think we have to lean towards this is a broken card. Maybe it's just good, but in my opinion, things like Lysander and stuff in the Pokemon TCG. I know earlier I said I haven't played it. I haven't played it in a while, so I didn't remember stuff like this, like poisoning and like burn and confusion. It also wasn't like really relevant when I was playing. So I think this card's going to be really good. Whether you play this or Sabrina is what kind of like makes it maybe not broken, maybe it just falls under good. You know what, I'm going to put it in good because either you're going to play like 4 Sabrinas in the sense that you play Cyrus and Sabrina. We'll see what ends up happening with that. Team Galactic Grunt, this is a new one for me. Put 1 random Glameow, Stunky, or Krogunk from your deck into your hand. Okay, so this is clearly, where did I put the targets for this? We put Fun Rogue, and we put playable on the Glameow. And granted, you wouldn't put a random one if you're only playing one of them, right? So I think this will be playable in the sense that if you're making a deck for this, you'll just build it where you only grab the one you need if you want to. Okay, then next we have Cynthia, which clearly I think, as we can see, both of its targets, actually no, yeah, both of its targets are under good, so this is just good card. And Volkner, I also think is a good card. Granted, its targets are Luxray and Electivire. Actually, I forgot about Electivire. I think that puts Electivire definitely into playable. I'm not way over Magmortar. I no longer think I'm contradicting myself when I say that. But obviously, I think Luxray is like the bigger target. And then the next 2 supporters, I've not seen what they do, and I'm excited to see. We have Dawn, which move an energy from one of your bench Pokemon to your active Pokemon. That's insane. That's insane. That's broken, in my opinion. That's crazy. Because, like, if you start doing Manaphy plays and building up a Palkia and something else, and then you put the Palkia up and then there's... Okay, that low-key puts Palkia close to being broken, in my opinion. Same thing with Infernape. Infernape, you Moltres, like let's say you put Moltres, build up an Infernape, and build up something else on the side, because you don't want Infernape to have more than 2 energy. You put Infernape out, it gets out, then you're not getting, then Dawn. Bro, Dawn is insane. Dawn for sure is broken. I hate that I got to it so late into the list, but here we are. And then we have Mars. Your opponent shuffles their hand into the deck and draws a card for each of the remaining points needed to win. So, red card, not that good of a card. Mars is basically red card, but at some point it becomes so much more than just red card. So I think Mars, due to how much I hate red card, I want to say I don't want to put it in good, but it's very close to good. And in certain games it's going to be way above that, but I'll put it on playable. I personally won't be a big fan of it, but I think that's pretty much it when in terms of our tier list and the cards that we broke down. Alright, so hopefully I could edit this video down to not be as long as it's taken to record. But honestly, I'm happy with the result that I got. I don't think anything's like too egregiously ranked. This is the card I'm most excited about, by far. No discussion, not even close. But yeah, as far as what I landed on, I hope you guys... this was honestly a live reaction. I did not know what I was reading in most of the cards. And we'll see. My Mythical Island wasn't exactly one to... like, I was wrong in a lot of things in Mythical Island, but I do feel pretty comfortable with where I put cards in this ranking, and only time will tell where the results are. Feel free to comment down below if you got to this point. If you got to this point, please consider liking and subscribing. It means a lot to me. Numbers going up makes me feel better, but that aside, I do want to hear your guys' opinion on what cards you think are broken. What did I underrate? What did I overrate? And with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the game. I hope you guys have the best luck with your pools in the... I guess at this point it'll be like, I don't know, 10 hours from now. And then when I post it, like maybe like in the next 6-8 hours, regardless. Best of luck with your pools, and above all else, stay pro.